Good evening, everyone. Today is October 11th, and this is podcast number 11 for this year. Today with us, we have a special guest. We have Lana Bachynski. She works at Riot as a senior animator. And we're happy to have her here. She's going to talk a little bit about being in the industry, a little bit about being a female working at Riot, and just be able to answer your questions in chat. So if you guys have any questions for us, go ahead and throw them in the chat, and we'll hit them up as we go. But go ahead and say hi, Lana.
Hi, Lana. Sorry. Hello, I'm super excited to be here. I feel like it's been a long time coming in the slowly progressing Twitter conversation. So I'm excited to be here. Very happy to answer questions for folks and hopefully provide a little insight onto being an animator in game development.
Awesome. Well, one of the first questions I know a lot of my students have when I mentioned we're going to have an actual person with the industry in the podcast was, how'd you get here? Because they all just see, I have to go to college, I have to get a job and go to Riot Games immediately. Otherwise, I can't get in there.
Yeah, I'm very happy to answer this, especially because my journey into game development really did start in high school for me. So I from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and I was very fortunate I went to an art school, actually. It was called Victoria Composite School for the Performing and Visual Arts, which sounds so fancy, but it really was like kind of a rundown inner city.
Could they pick a longer name?
Now people just called it Vic. But yeah, so I went to Vic, and at Vic, I was introduced to animation specifically really early. I was always into video games. I think the first time I said I want to work for Blizzard, I was 12. You know, I feel like everybody found a favorite thing and they're like, I want to do that when I'm older. But I made my first animation when I was 15, and it was just like in a flip book. But from there, I was like, hey, this is a fun hobby. And so in high school, we had a computer lab, and I would be at the lab pretty much any spare moment that I had. So instead of a social life, I would like get to school early and I'd go to the computer lab and I'd be animating in a program called Cinema 4D. And then I would come at lunch and I'd stay after school and I'd babysit my teacher's kids.
Cinema 4D in high school?
Yeah. Now I feel like Blender would be the thing. I still have never used Blender, even though it's free. But yeah, I used Cinema 4D. I don't know why that was the program they chose, but that was the one we had.
Not exactly beginner friendly.
I disagree. I think compared to something like Maya, the interface is super intuitive, whereas like everything was sort of visualized in a way that felt really easy to grok. And then in Maya, it was like, I know how to do all these things, but where's the button for it?
Right. I've only ever touched Blender, and Blender scares me.
I feel like it looks really overwhelming because they throw so much at you up front when really you can whittle it down to is like, what is the task I'm doing now? And then you can just have those buttons. But I digress. I was animating all the time, and I was really fortunate to have a really fantastic teacher, Mr. Dave DeBercier, Mr. D. And he finally pulled me aside, and he had posters of like Warcraft 3 and like A Bug's Life, The Incredibles, like all these posters from all these fun 3D animation-y things that were going on at the time. And he sort of pulled me aside and he goes, hey, do you see these things? And I go, yeah, of course. And he goes, people get paid to make those. And I was like, oh, like what I'm doing all the time is this weird hobby could just be my job.
Just hadn't dawned upon you yet?
No, I was an idiot. I thought I was going to go be a scientist. Like, not even like, oh, a physicist, like a scientist. Like, what the hell is that? I don't know.
I mean, that's a form of science.
Yeah. Really, I grew up also acting. My parents met on stage, and I love hanging out on computers. And so animation was kind of this marriage of my love of like the theater and just hanging out on the computer. Sort of get to do both, where I'm not the person acting, you know, I'm making these characters act, but I get to just play on a computer all day, and that feels really fun. So from there, I did a whole bunch of research, and I applied to all these different animation schools, but I ended up selecting the Academy of Art University in San Francisco, which is where I went to university. And I chose it not because it was the best one, in my opinion, but because there was a ton of industry in the area as well. So I figured if the education was garbage, I could probably get some kind of education from the community I assumed would be around that area. And so went there it was a 5-year program. Ugh, not great. But I applied for an internship at Blizzard Entertainment. I was very fortunate that I got that internship at Blizzard and worked with them, came back, finished my degree. This is like a long-winded story, but long story short, after university, I spent a year. I called Blizzard back being like, hey, you can hire me full-time now. And they're like, we're very busy. Well, they just had like exploded. Like the project that would become Overwatch had temporarily exploded. So they couldn't hire me on just yet. So I did freelance illustration for a year. And then sure enough, as soon as they could, Blizzard gave me a text one night at like 9 p.m. Like, you up? No, they were like, do you want to come work for us again? And I said, yes, please. And so I worked there for 5.5 years, and I moved to Riot last year, and I've been here just a little over a year.
What projects do you work on at Blizz?
At Blizzard, I worked on StarCraft 2 Heart of the Swarm. I worked on StarCraft 2 Legacy of the Void a very little bit, but primarily I worked on Heroes of the Storm, and I did tiny little things for cinematics here and there around BlizzCon time. And I did a lot of spokesperson stuff for Blizzard. So I did like all my animation stuff, and then I would also be like on stage at BlizzCon being like, hey, everybody, let me tell you about this.
People actually make these games.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but you can swear it on the internet.
I loved playing HOTS for quite a while. That was like my summer game. I like hardcore league grinder, and like, but then I get to summer and have all this extra free time, and I'm like, I'm gonna play HOTS because I just want something quick and fun. Especially when I had when my first daughter was born, I was like, I need something quick, 20 minutes, because I might have to jump up and run away. And HOTS was always so stress free, and it was so much easier to play and not like grinding league ranked. So I was like, that was always my fun game. And then I kind of stopped playing it once they announced they were not really continuing it anymore, and with the hardcore development, and then dropped like Heroes of the Dorm, and you just see the
that
pro
was
level.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah, I thought Heroes of the Dorm dropped. It was the best.
It was the best. It was the best. I went every year, man. I flew to Colorado or somewhere for 1 year. Oh, I loved Here's the Dorm.
Yeah, and they just really put on a good show and made it a real worthwhile like event. And I think that was the thing they had going from it. Even if they just kept that going without the pro scene, like they still could have kept it going. I don't know how much it cost them to run that, obviously, like behind the scenes, but just that experience for the college kids to do that and be, on stage and have all these big events and have it be this big grand tournament and not just, some random guys tournament you're joining online type thing. And that was like one of the first big college tournaments. I think Heroes of the Dorm was much better put together than Riot's tournament, at least at that production level. So,
some stuff from chat. So I don't fall too far behind this. People are asking, what's your favorite skin you designed? I don't think you're on that team.
I was.
Really?
So, I was on the skins team. I'm no longer on the skins team. I got to do a lot of really great things in the year that I was on skins. It's very difficult to pick a favorite. I did Dark Cosmic Lux, and I did Spirit Blossom Thresh and Ari. Ari might be up there my favorite. And most recently, I did. I was on the team that made All Out Seraphine. All the three tiers. So we didn't design the champ, but we did do all the animation for the her KDA stuff.
Someone else is asking about what's some advice you give to someone who wants to pursue a career path into game design development?
My best advice for somebody who wants to get into game design and game development, if you're specifically looking for game design, make games. That sounds very trite, but there's so many engines that are free, like Unity and Unreal. You can download them, and if you're not making a product that is making over $10,000, which I don't think you will, play around, get to know the engines. Even if you go somewhere that has something proprietary, they're likely going to have a lot of the tools that are featured in these engines. But more importantly, making games, write them down on paper, make like puzzles and things for your friends and put them in front of people. Get used to people giving you feedback on your product. I think like if you are able to consistently make small fun experiences and be very comfortable in having people be like, this was not fun and tell you why, and like distilling that feedback. Like that is going to be such a huge leg up.
Yeah, I was
You
going to
can
say
learn,
something
all
like you don't even really have to do it in like video game engines. You can make board games or make card games. Like, you know, it's
Or
just
like
more
make
about getting
D&D
the concept
campaigns. My
of
friends write those all the time.
Yes, for sure.
yeah, of just doing like design work and then getting feedback on it and then iterating and just learning that process. That's one big thing that I teach in my school. I teach IT, and we talk about the design cycle, about how it's not just a process you go like this. It's literally you're going every which way to do research and then going back to do research after you finish part of the project and getting feedback. And so just learning that whole design loop, I think, is really important in being able to get feedback on that.
And
Yeah.
something
And
else
even,
you go ahead, sorry.
I was going to, even beyond that, like sort of the nuance of something that is a part of that design loop and is largely a part of game development in general, learning how to speak with people, and to work with people in any way. It was a term that I didn't hear until midway through university, is soft skills, which are the skills of collaboration. They're kind of like the friendship skills, but like you don't have to be friends with everybody you work with, but people kind of want that because
Yeah, you mean I can't just do this project by myself? Like why
Gotta be
do
at
I have to work with a group on this project? That's what my kids say
Man.
every time.
Oh God, so many times.
All I do is group projects for like the first like semester, and they're like, another group project. I'm like, yeah, just learn how to work with someone. That's it.
Yeah, even if like in the end, like the group project that you like, what you would have created alone would not be like, that project is likely not your portfolio piece, like depending on what year you are. And I guess like you're learning invaluable skills of communication, collaboration, and like distilling a bunch of different ideas into one cohesive experience, whatever it is. That even if what you would have created on your own just would have taken you longer, but would have been to your standard, it's still, you're missing out on like a huge amount of what it takes to be in development.
And one of the biggest things we always harp on as coaches and as teachers is growth mindset. And that's what you're hitting on a lot here, is being able to take not necessarily positive feedback and turn it into something that is positive.
Yes.
And some good result. And that's something I've been trying to harp on a lot of my students who happen to be in chat right now. I want to yell at you about being growth mindset and practice, and you always tell me that's stupid. Yeah, someone else is saying it now.
Yeah, especially when it comes to stuff like that. Like distilling feedback is not about listening to everybody say something negative.
We're going to run in a circle and say the things we hate.
Yeah, but like listening to all these different pieces of feedback, you also don't even have to like just write down every note and then do exactly what people say. If you get all these notes, like somebody was like saying they don't feel powerful enough, or they felt slow, or like some of those feedbacks probably could be solved with one change. Like just learning how to process feedback in a way and translate that into the work that you're doing. Super good, super important.
Well, especially the feedback that you're getting, the people might not know how to correctly iterate what they want to see out of it, and so you're like, well, what do you mean that's too fast? That's that's the slowest animation I have when you count the frames, and they don't realize it just because of the way the animation plays out. I was just listening to someone talk about that today too, and I'm like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense, because I have no idea about frames, and that's the more the fighting game thing, and dealing with counting frames, and our Smash kids will probably be able to tell us all about that. But
oh God, so many they say so many words I don't even understand.
But yeah, no, it's just like, me saying, yeah, that doesn't feel right, or I don't feel powerful with that. You have to then dissect that and turn that into, okay, well, what does he really mean behind that statement, and then try to fix that problem.
Yes, 100%.
So if I may actually do a little question on development work that you've done, like, for example, just using League as a context, as most players here know that, what's the development timeline cycle on a skin? Because some players think it's like, hey, we want to do an event next month, let's go make a skin.
Oh my God, no! I think we have 2021 mapped out. Like, just to
really,
like it's mapped out. So there are potential to pivot, but certainly working on a skin, a couple months like of development time, and the development time by way of production and preparing the team of people who are going to do the individual contribution work of creating the skin, it's definitely known months in advance. Like before I start a skin, I probably know what my next skin is. And if I don't know concretely what it is, I probably have an idea of the thematic that it'll sit in. So things are definitely months and months out.
And to follow up that in chat is actually how many people are on a team for a single skin?
That's a really good question. I feel like my time on the skins team, I didn't get it. I have such a like concrete idea of what that looks like for heroes, but I can just can it out. It'd be like sound, QA, a QA manager. So there's probably a ton of QA people who are doing QA work, and then the QA manager who's on the team, an effects artist. We had 1, 2, 3 animators for a legendary skin. We had did I start production?
Did each
Modeling,
animator have a
concept?
different thing?
No, we'd work together. So we would create like a spreadsheet that was like, here's all the animations we could possibly need and some extra ones that'll be fun if we get to them. And we do the animation dibs meeting where it's like,
well, you're drafting.
like,
I want to do this one.
Or what?
No, my other 2 animators were quite introverted. So it'd usually be me being like, you guys got to speak up or I'm just going to pick ones I want like I always do. And they'd be like, okay. But we kind of changed it up being like, okay, I made the idol in the run last time. Now you're going to do the locomotion. And then that time after that, now he's going to do the locomotion, etc. So we kind of pass around, knowing that we're going to be working together for a while. We sort of develop a relationship of understanding like who did what last time versus this upcoming time, etc. Yeah.
So I was kind of curious on like the process there, because a lot of students, especially younger kids, will look for the "I want it done now" or "Why is this project going to take me more than a week?" I'm like, well, things in the real world take more than a week. Who'd have thought?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Sorry.
Things like what we were working on the KDA skin because it was like 3 skins in one for a year, like all year. It was very,
Now,
very, very
how
long
late
process.
do you get the details for what it's exactly going to look like, or did they take the details from you guys what it's going to look like?
We work together to create the details of what it's going to look like. So we'll kind of get like a pitch. Oh my, sorry, I just got dinner delivered. I won't eat it right this second. We sort of get depending on what it is, probably something like Lux is easier. So for Dark Cosmic Lux, we know that we want to do something within the cosmic thematic about what's going to make it unique and what's going to make it unique as compared to other Lux skins, especially because there happen to be a few other Lux skins.
Just
A few, you say?
like 20 or so.
And so, thank you. Well, so we'll know it's in this. We do something that we call like the blue sky meeting, and in the blue sky meeting, it's like anything goes. Just think of any cool idea that you can possibly think of. It could be an animation, it could be a sound. What does she look like? And then all the artists, and not just artists, QA, again, sound, like anybody who's interested in it, knows the character really well, or is on the team, is there. I'm losing my words a little bit here, but they just spit out kind of anything we want. And we do a couple rounds of blue sky. And in that time, you've got the concept artist who's in the room listening to everybody's thoughts, again, trying to distill what everybody's saying and boil it down. And they do a couple iterations on the concept, present them to the team. We say, we like this about this, we don't like that, like this about this one, whittle it down, a couple more versions, whittle it down until everybody goes, that's the one, baby. And that's how the look of the character comes about.
I imagine just the QA, or not QA, the concept artist in the background, like panically just writing everything down the first meeting. Like, oh god, there's so many things.
Well, that's why I have production a lot of the time, is they're the people sort of keeping everybody on track and a lot of times taking notes for everything that's happening. So we'll do a meeting and we'll have a document open and somebody's job is to sit there being like, what is everybody saying? I'm writing it all down. So
that's
you
the
can
one
all
thing I
remember
can
later.
never do is I can never like take notes for a meeting because I just get too busy talking about what we're doing and not actually like, yeah, I should be writing that down. So I always like designate, can someone else take notes? Because otherwise nothing is going to get written, or it'll be like, hang on, can you guys go back? Because I forgot what you guys said 5 minutes ago.
Guys, I appreciate the little folks question in chat. I don't really know if I want to interrogate her on every single skin she's ever worked on. Just a quick thought.
Yeah, I mean, I did list first. I mean, for League, because I was only on it for a year, I think I did list all of the ones I was on earlier. It feels like a short list when you're like a whole year, but like when it takes months.
That's a lot of work.
And we have like so many other teams. Like it's not just this; those are just the skins I worked on. We have a whole bunch of different pods of developers doing different work. So we have, I mean, how often does something new drop? Like every 3 weeks or something? There's a lot of work being done.
PvE cycle.
That's the one.
And after something hits PvE, have you guys readjusted after that, or is it just once it hits PvE, we're done?
No, hitting PvE is like
the scary time.
It hits PvE. No, it's I don't find it scary because I don't let myself get too married to my work. Like there might be a time where I would have taken things personally, but now I'm like, this is my job, and my job is to give players what they want. And so we do have people who go and they sort of track down any bugs that people found that we didn't catch in development. And we do have people saying, we got a lot of notes on this feedback on this thing wasn't loud enough. And so we'll have effects artists go in and make the effects louder or whatever. There's a lot of people on Twitter who actually specifically tweet out when they've made updates as they've made them as things are on PvE. So we definitely use that time to refine and make things as best as we can before we have to move on.
I know a lot of players really appreciate the transparency that Riot has in these sorts of things on fixing stuff once it goes public facing and changing things and going towards player feedback.
Yeah, I think there's a really good question that we can pivot on in chat that asks about doing animation on any of the other Riot games. I think that question, just to pivot in Riot in general, like how easy is it to switch teams or switch games at Riot now that they actually have games and not just one? Like if you wanted to go work on something else, would you easily be able to shift over there? Or
they just tell you no and tell you to stop?
No, I feel like the biggest thing is making sure that like the commitments that you have to the team that you're on, somebody's got to be fulfilling that spot. Riot wants people to be working on the team that they're most excited about, because chances are if you're the most excited about it, you're going to be doing your best work. And so I would say moving is easy in the sense that if like things work out and you can find a backfill for your role and there's a spot available and there's not like 20 other people going for it, like there's definitely things that would stand in the way of making it easy per se. But if things definitely aren't difficult, if that makes sense. They just kind of are. You can do it. I've did it. That's why I'm not on skins anymore. I saw a couple of people asking what team I'm currently on, and now I'm on a research and development team. So I'm on a very not public facing. Anything I'm doing is all kind of
is all right. We'll see now what she's doing like in 3 or 4 years
later.
But
later. There are, I have heard of people doing they're calling it jungling, where like if they need help on a project, they'll go and jungle for a bit over there and they'll help that team.
That's awesome.
Make some art and then they'll come back to their normal team. So there are also moments that people have those stints. I've seen it a lot with concept art, seeing it a little bit more with animation. I haven't really seen, I don't have a lot of insight into how it goes with other roles, but there are those possibilities there. I haven't done it. I haven't worked on any of the other projects.
One thing I do love about Riot, and that I've been talking with them for a couple of years now, that they really invest in the universe. Like all your conference rooms are named about places around the maps, and like there's the blue buff room and this and that. Like I've been in some of those conferences, seen like the meeting room name, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And then he told me about the whole thing about how you guys do it like that, and just to hear you talk about calling it jungling and using. And I think I watched a Freak stream where he was talking about something that they did as well. That was a league term. And I was like, oh my God, that's hilarious. They just use that culture. Everyone knows what it is already. And then just, uses it to talk about business.
There's a lot of those things, but also, man, Riot loves acronyms.
Yeah, no,
not as much as education.
To a degree that's like, oh, come on, man. Especially because they'll use acronyms to describe departments, but those acronyms already exist just for other things in the world. It's like, I get you're trying to be like nerdy about it, but I don't know what this means outside of role-playing game. So help me out here.
Question in chat, like what is research and development? Are you looking for stuff about game, animation, or thematics, or what?
I think research and development broadly sort of applies to anything from doing prototyping on possibly new games or new ideas, or there are R&D teams that work with existing tech to figure out what other cool things that we can do in existing engines to possibly infuse into other characters as they go down the line. It's basically wanting to stay really on top of things by way of things that are happening in the game dev space, wanting to make sure that we are jumping on opportunities to make fun experiences for players, and also trying to keep, like, League is 10 years old now. Like, how do we continue to keep that relevant? How do we continue to keep that exciting? There are teams that are dedicated towards making sure that that experience stays fresh for people year over year, season over season.
It stays fresh starting today.
Yeah, today starts fresh again.
I've had players messaging me all day like, "Oh God, I don't get what's going on," or "Help, help!" Like, just read, just read.
Yeah.
Are you a big MOBA player, or did you just happen to fall into the MOBA genre?
I would say both. I tried to pick up League of Legends when I was in university. And by tried, I mean, I was at a conference and somebody's like, League of Legends, you're going to love this game. And I was like, sure, I've heard so much about it. And I sat down to play, but nobody told me the objective of the game. I just had somebody stand behind me being like, run into the, oh, you died. And I was like, what do I do? And
it wasn't very fun.
Run straight. And I'm like, do you want to drive? Like, what do I do? What is the objective? And they never told me. So I was like, boo. And so I didn't play the game again for a really long time. And then I played a little bit of Dota when I was briefly I was teaching a pre-college program at Stanford for ID Tech. And I played Dota with the folks there for a summer, but never super got into it. And then I played, like, Here's the Storm, working on the product. I'm a firm believer that I will do a better job at my job if I understand the game and the player experience. And so I played a ton of Here's the Storm while I worked on it. I still play Here's the Storm a ton. Whew, yeah. So that sort of got me into the genre, even though it is not like on the high end competitive level of League of Legends. And then in League, I have played much less of it because work was so busy that there wasn't actually as much time for straight gaming as I would have liked. But yeah, I play mid mostly, a little bit of ADC, a little bit. But my favorite parts about League of Legends are actually the crazy modes. Like when Earth shows up, I'm like, hell yeah, that's my stuff. Love it. But I like Zoe and Diana are my two go-tos. But yeah, that's about my MOBA experience.
Yeah, it's just awesome to find out like how you've traversed into MOBAs, because you don't normally see too many females that play MOBAs, or at least they're not too vocal about it. And just in general, you don't see too many females, front facing in the industry. And that's kind of why we wanted to have you on here to kind of talk about what is it like. I mean, how many females are there at Riot, or how, like, are you completely outnumbered by males, or?
That's such a good question. It's so funny because I know it's like a thing, but I feel like my entire life I have had the fortune of, I guess, not really thinking about it. I would think about it when like something would happen. Like when, like in high school, people were like, you can't play games with us because you're a girl. And I'd be like, that's very dumb. How about I play games with you if I win? And they're like, that'll never happen. And so it kicked the ass. So I got really good at video games, I think, because I'm a girl. So I constantly had to like prove myself. But working in the industry, I guess technically, like, definitely outnumbered, but I don't really notice it because I don't think about it that much. I think at Blizzard had like one of the highest ratios, and I think we were sitting at 12% women, maybe 18% women. Mm-hmm. And Riot, I don't know what the ratio is. I know I'm currently the only female on my team, but I have a very, very, very small team. And on the skins team, no, it was like tons of women, like tons of them. So it's not unheard of in any way, obviously, but it was I came to Riot after it had most of its public debacle through that news article. So I definitely can't speak to what it was like before, but what I have experienced now is everything that they've been going through to make sure that they are a place that is desirable to work for everyone, what they're doing with inclusivity. I probably felt more supported in my career at Riot than I have anywhere. And I mean, anywhere between Blizzard and Riot. Riot has done a really excellent job at making me feel very supported and safe, and yeah, I just feel included in a way that is awesome.
Yeah, well, I think it's a big thing that we try to stress at the high school level, because there are so many girls who are there that only last one meeting because somebody says something and nobody catches it or something like that, or nobody backs them up. And so we're trying to change that culture a lot earlier, because the problem that we see with kids is that so many of them are kids and their parents say, oh, here's your new Xbox, go play in the basement, put your headphones on, close your door because I don't want to hear you. And they're not able to be part of that and teach them like the good citizenship that you should be online, and especially towards females, that you might not know that person's a female that you've been playing with so long because they just don't talk, or they don't talk that much, so you just might think they're a little kid or something. So I think it's important that we stress and make a point about addressing any issues that we have in high school. That way, when they get to college or when they get into the industry, you don't have to deal with that. And I think it's unfair for, minorities, whether they're women or people of color, that they have to deal with that when they get to those places because they're
absolutely. I think, I mean, one of the things that we say all the time, people probably hear this all the time, either as just like a stereotypical phrase of any industry, but people in game dev are always like, it's, the industry is so small, and you're like looking at breaking in and you're like, there's all these companies, how many people work at that company, how many people applied for this job, thousands, like it doesn't feel small. But once you're sort of in either like observing the ins and outs of the industry on Twitter from development professionals talking to each other, or once you're in like working at a company, you'll realize that the industry is so small. You'll be like, oh my gosh, I love this thing. And somebody's like, I actually made that. And you're like, well, we've been sitting together for 2 years and I didn't know you worked on this thing that I love. Like it does become a tinier place. Just because your network kind of grows. And I bring that up because, man, people will remember what you said to them in high school. Man, people remember what you said to them in university. And like, it doesn't matter who you're talking to, whether or not it's your bro or whether or not it is, a girl who's trying to join your club. If you are a jerk to them, oh my God, they're going to be your boss someday, or they are going to be in that position where you are applying for a job, you are at the interview, and they walk in and go, oh, you? No. And that's it. Like, that's it. They will tell these stories like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this person who was so rude to me constantly for years, like tried to get a job here. And they'll tell all their friends, and that's it. And I'm not saying that to scare you. I'm saying that because, like, if you had that experience, you wouldn't want to work with somebody who was a jerk to you. Don't be a jerk to somebody else, period. Ever. People spend, like, in development 8-10 hours a day. If things are crunching, I've had the privilege of not having to crunch almost ever in my career in 8 years or however long it's been. Like, you're spending that long of time with people. They want to work with people they like. They want to work with people they're friends with, or they can be friends with, they're friendly with. And so the industry becomes a really small place, and it becomes a very, very hard to break in place if you're a meanie.
Yeah. Well, and coming full circle, some of those soft skills is, like you said, people work 8 to 10 plus hours with next to someone, and if you can't be able to communicate with them and talk nicely with them and be friendly with them and be able to trust them to do their job, if your job relies on them doing their job, that's a lot of things that you have to be able to do. And I think that's a lot of the skills that we try to push onto our students and try to make them aware of. through our esports program is like, you have to be able to communicate. A lot of our kids aren't part of any other teams. They've never been coached before. They don't know what it's like to communicate. They know what it's like to sit at home and grind solo queue and rage if they need to, or, walk away if they want to. And so some of the stuff with high school esports is we're trying to get those soft skills out of them now, because it's not fair to them that they picked this hobby as being the hobby that they love. Like, some people pick football and they go on to have football careers, or go into sports medicine, or, coaching in that field. And just because you picked esports, you shouldn't feel like you're pigeonholed into this, you have to be the best player in order to be a part of it. And, so many times when I tell kids, like, you don't have to be the greatest player. You can play the game, but you can be part of it. Like, Riot has accountants that work for them, and most of those accountants probably love Riot games. Like, that I think that's, a big thing. It's like, hey, if you want to be a business person, if you want to be marketing, like, all of these game companies need marketers and, community managers. That kind of fits all in the same role.
That is such a good point. Like, there's so much more to getting games at the door than just the dev team. Like, what people would say was essentially the dev team doing marketing. Oh my gosh. People who are doing publishing and community interfacing with all people external to the company, talking with players, like, all of those are integral. The lawyers that work for the company, like, it doesn't matter like what role you want to be. Man, if you want to be a chef, Riot has like a great cafeteria with seriously amazing cooks. Like, there's so many different roles for you if you want to work at Riot Games. You could check on the website, and there's probably like, sort by category, and it'd be like finance, I guess custodians are usually like a third party thing. Whatever. Sorry, I'm getting in the weeds, but like, so many different things. You do not have to develop the game to be a part of that experience.
Yeah, and that's what I try to stress to these kids, is that if you're happy doing your job, like at the place that you work at and what they believe in, it's going to make your life a lot better no matter what your job is. And so, I would have loved to, been in college and trying to figure out where I'm going to go if I knew I was going to love the place I went to. Like, it would make it a lot easier to study what I wanted to study if I was like, hey, I can go and do this at any, gaming company or whatever. You don't have to be a coder to go work at a game development. You don't have to do,
not.
necessarily art or animation to do it either. But, there's graphic designers, website, there's a million jobs that all of these companies hire. And yeah, they might only hire one or two, but these companies are growing and growing, and there's so many game companies now, and some of them start at really small teams where 5 or 6 people, where you might be able to multitask and do multiple jobs and get your feet wet in animation, and as well as maintaining the website or being the community manager or whatever it might be.
Like Riot is also like, it doesn't, I think you mentioned this earlier, it like, that does not have to be your first job. There are so many incredible indie studios doing incredible work that like, you will learn more under less pressure, like, and have a great experience and build a network while getting paid. Like, there are amazing opportunities to work at small studios for sure.
A lot of students really want to jump in at tier 1 and don't understand that you got to start somewhere.
You do. And like, your somewhere could also be an internship. Like, I always feel weird being like, it doesn't have to be your first job, because I was very fortunate in that my first job was Blizzard, which was like my dream job at the time. So I worked as a waitress before that. It wasn't my first job ever, but there's definitely a path that is really, really straightforward like that. But there's also a path that takes you a bunch of different places, and you likely have a broader range of skills and a wider network to work from. And that is an excellent path as well. I used to say when I was working at Blizzard for a while that, like, to a degree, getting my job at Blizzard was like the worst thing I ever did for myself, because it was like so safe and so comfortable that it made me be like, ooh, I'll just snuggle in here. Like, I'll just do this same thing for however long. Where, like, if I hadn't gotten my job at Blizzard, I wonder what my life would be. How many projects would I have been a part of? Like, would my career have gone faster, slower? Because I'm working with different teams, and if you hop around, you can like excel your career faster or like whatever. So being at a corporate, like, big studio is not, it's fantastic. I love it. Obviously, I've worked for 2 of them, but there are also so many other wonderful things that you can be a part of that are not at corporate studios. Hades. That game is so dang good.
What is it?
Sorry.
I've been hearing about it so much.
Oh
I
my
have not
God.
actually played it.
You
What
Okay,
is
should
Hades?
so
play it.
I pushed it off because I was like, as soon as I play this game, I'm not going to do anything else, and I have to move. Like, I'm supposed to be packing. I have a week off this week. It is so good. It is a roguelike narrative, beautiful. The voice over, like, I rarely am like, oh, the voiceovers are so good. It goes through, like, it's got like the Greek pantheon, and all the different voices of all the different gods are, they feel so perfect. Oh my gosh, the game is amazing, and it's created by a super small team. Super Giant Games.
Yeah, they're a really
so
small group,
good.
aren't they?
Yeah, and they, like, it is, I would say, as far as I've heard on so many people's, not only game of the year, like game of ever, like one of the best games created by way of art and game feel experience. Period. It is so good, so good.
If YouTube worked right now, I'd actually go look at that. But
It just came
I've
out
been
on
hearing
Switch. I'm loving it.
oh boy, I've been hearing about it so much from my friends. I should go try it.
Yeah, it's
I'm
like
I'm already
every
running like 3 other roguelikes. Calm down.
every
my
other
gosh.
podcast I listen to is like, oh, Hades, and it's like, oh my God, I'm not sick of Hades. I watched quite a bit of it because who did I watch? I watched Co-Carnage play a bunch of it for a
Ooh.
while, and but I was like, yeah, I don't have time to get into this game. I got really hard into Dead Cells last year, and I was like, wow, this game is so fun, and I was actually really good at it.
I'd lost my life to Risk of Rain 2 for a while.
Actually, on the Risk of Rain pathway is another really indie roguelike called Gunfire Reborn.
Oh, so good.
It is essentially roguelike Borderlands.
Yes, and with pals, like being able to play with friends. I mean, Risk of Rain you can as well. Hades you cannot. Oh man, but playing with your
Nightmare
friends.
mode scares me. Nightmare mode scares me. I've tried it and I died in like the second level, and I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, super fun. Excellent. That, I guess, is like the other thing somebody mentioned earlier about getting into game design. I also want to throw out there, if you want to get into game design, also play a lot of games. Like, don't just make games, play games. And don't just play games, but analyze why you think they're fun, why you don't think they're fun, what would make them better, what would make them different. Like play games.
Lana, but doesn't that ruin it? Like when you become a movie critic and then now you can never watch a movie and enjoy it again?
I haven't found that to be the case.
Okay, good. As long as I hear somebody that doesn't do that.
To each their own.
But don't you see every flaw in animation in every game now?
Oh, yeah. But I see a lot of animation flaws in like everything. And that just, every time I see an animation flaw, it's kind of like that moment where I'm like, I know my shit or stuff. I know my stuff.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it feels good. Feels good.
I mean, one that I always like, I have a friend who works in game dev. He always yells a lot about because pathing issues. He's super hard up on pathing and making sure models path correctly and all that stuff. And I'm like, really? That's what's gonna get you here? Not their entire face clipping through their shoulder? That's the pathing?
That bothers me less. That clipping is like the one thing that I feel like people give feedback on. And I'm
especially
like,
facial clipping, you can see so easily.
Yeah. But I'm like, that's the point in time where I'm like, but it's like a video game, right? Like up till that point, I'm like, we gotta work hard, we gotta polish it up, and then I'll get like a little bit of clipping. Then people are like, there's clipping there. I'm like, it's a video game. But I'm really bad for that though. I just want it to feel good. If you zoom in, there's clipping, I'm like, whatever. But people care. I care less.
We had a good question from Papa Shorty back in the chat a little bit ago. He said, is animating the characters just you drawing, or is there coding involved? I'm asking since I'm not interested in coding, and it sort of feels like I need to learn how to code to be part of this field.
Hell no. No, I do not do any coding whatsoever. Animating is, I mean, people do draw to animate. I do not draw to animate. I draw little sketches. I just hid them all, so I don't actually have any present. But that's like a total just thing that I do as a part of my workflow and not a thing that is necessary. I work in 3D, so I use a program called Maya by Autodesk, and basically there's like a 3D puppet in the space. So if You see it. You've probably like heard of T-posing if you're really into video games. People have been using it as BM lately of T-posing or whatever. But your character comes in like a T-pose, and they have like little rings around them, like little hula hoops kind of around their body. And from there, you can take it and you can bend it like literally like a doll. It like animates by you moving the controls around individually, like literally like if you're playing with a Barbie or something. And then you can put it in a pose and tell it to hold there, and then scrub forward in the timeline. So scrub forward in time and move the pose, and then the computer will kind of be like, meh, but it'll look really ugly. And then it's my job to like take these poses and make it not look ugly by using the 12 principles of animation to make it look good. I made it sound like the computer does a lot more work than it does. It just remembers things I tell it.
Just remembers things.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's animation. If you're interested in animation, you do not need to code. There are elements of animation like creating the rig. Technical artists or animators do a lot of that. And there isn't coding involved, but there is more technical, mathy kind of stuff involved. But even then, like depending on where you work, if you are on a really small team, they might have like an auto rigger that's already set up to rig your characters for you, or they'll have a technical artist. So if you don't want to get into that, you don't have to get into that. There are tons of free rigs that you can already play with online. Jean-Denis Haas has a channel where he does rig reviews. You can check those out. Usually they're all free rigs. Kyle Figgins sells rigs that you can purchase and play with. I think he might have a couple free ones too. Maybe not, but he does really great work. There's the Anim Challenge Facebook group that does a monthly Anim Challenge, and they seem to be giving a new rig away every single time. They have a Thor one right now. They just did like an Aang one for a Last Airbender rig. Awesome stuff, great rigs, beautiful, beautiful stuff. So lots of resources for you, like tons of free resources. Like I would say, don't pay for anything if you're interested in animation, because you can get a student version of Maya, you can get Blender, which is always free, and you can find free rigs from these communities on the internet. You just have to like Google like free animation stuff. And if you're not sure, man, Twitter. I never thought I would be hailing Twitter as like the place to network if you're interested. But for real, there are so many game developers, specifically the game development animator community on Twitter is bumping. I can plug some Twitter handles or Twitter hashtags that you can follow if you're interested in getting into it. People are super friendly if you just tweet at them. Like it's a really great place to get in touch with people and ask questions.
Yeah, and that's definitely what I tell about the high school and college esports. Like there's a couple like newer colleges like, hey, we want to start esports. And I was like, oh, let me get your Twitter. Oh, we're not on Twitter. I'm like, okay.
We're here right now because of Twitter.
Right. I had heard her on a podcast, and I was like, oh, well, let me just reach out to her. She sounds like really cool. And so I just literally DM'd her on Twitter, and that's how she ended up being on this podcast. And Twitter is really bad a lot of the time, but it is really good some of the times. There are those bright spots. So
you can cultivate your experience to like my Twitter. People are like, Twitter's garbage right now. I'm like, everybody on my timeline is just tweeting art or game development stuff. Like you can choose
like, what your timeline looks like too, you know?
Oh yeah. Now we're just plugging Twitter, but it really is great. Like I used to go to I go to GDC, and now I run the animation summit at GDC as well. But I went 1 year when I was still a student, and I met up with all the animators who had started the animation boot camp at the time and chatted with them. And then by the end of the evening, they were like, man, this has been so awesome. Do you have Twitter? You should tweet with us. And I was like, definitely. I'll be right back, though.
Wink,
and I went to the
wink.
bathroom, and I made Twitter. And I tweeted like 30 times as if they wouldn't notice that it was like all these.
That it says you were created on this day.
Yeah, created on on this day.
Literally on your profile.
Following just these 5 dudes. A picture of me on the toilet, like whatever. And followed them all. And from that, they'd be constantly like tweeting out job opportunities or like, look at this cool article about animation. And I learned so much just from joining this Twitter account and following like a couple people in the industry. It's so worth it. Even if you never want to engage by yourself, like talking on it, there's so many people that you can follow and learn a lot just from the conversations happening on the internet. The magic of the internet.
Yeah. I think definitely, like you said, cultivating the right people in your feed, or having multiple Twitter accounts. They're free. If you want to have one that's all for memes and Riot and League stuff and whatever, do it. But then have another one that's for professional stuff. That way, if you're looking for something in particular, you can find it. I think the greatest thing I found on Twitter is just making lists of people, because then it gets rid of all the retweets and all the likes in your feed. So if you really want to parse it down to be just the people you want to hear from, just put them in a list, and then literally it's a clean in order, so you can always go back if you as long as you don't check it once a month.
Did not know about that.
Yeah. And for real, I know that we're talking high school here, but I would highly advise you to never tweet anything that you wouldn't want like Kotaku to pick up later down the line.
Yeah, like 5 years later, and they find something.
Yeah. No matter what, just like be professional. It's your public. This could be your public face for who you are as a developer later down the line. And
yeah, definitely.
If you don't want Kotaku to post your toilet selfies, don't post a toilet selfie.
Yeah. So your profile pic is gone from that very first one.
I think I do still post toilet selfies every once in a while as a joke. They're not very flattering. I haven't done it in a while.
Oh my God.
I mean, this is all a joke. Don't do that.
But yeah, no, it's so easy to scrub through someone's Twitter and find any keyword that they're looking for. And I think nowadays, like, kids don't realize, and just people in general don't realize, like, all of that stuff is so easy for a recruiter just to pull it up in one go and then completely throw you in the no pile, and then you just end up in the no pile forever because of something you said on Twitter at one point in time.
That's for real. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're getting close to our time cap here, I think, Todd.
Oh, that's right. You turn into a pumpkin soon. I forgot. I'm the one that gets up at 4 a.m.
I don't get how you do that, honestly.
Have some kids and realize how much of a mess it is in the evening, and then you'll realize why you get up at 4 a.m. Because it's completely silent.
So to avoid them, okay.
Yeah, essentially.
Get some me time.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, it's usually grading papers or lesson planning. Or, I don't know, taking a shower in peace, because that doesn't happen often when you have little kids. So.
Yeah. So, are there any final questions? I've been very bad at reading the chat. Usually
they're mostly just random things now.
Nice.
Yeah, we've been calling out some of the really good ones.
Mm-hmm.
Have Tyler one as your alarm clock.
That definitely would work.
I mean, a trick that I picked up in high school, because I kept sleeping through my alarm, because I eventually just got used to the noise and would just sleep through it. So Dad would walk in like an hour later, like, why are you still in bed? But the trick I got was put it across the room, make it a really annoying sound. So I have to get up to go turn it off.
That still doesn't work for me. I sleep through it. I sleep through it when it's here. So I don't hear it when it's across the room.
Oh my God.
But speaking of Tyler One, I don't know how close we are to the cap, but we can end with like a fun story about my animation test for League. We were just talking about it yesterday.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we have no hard cap. It just Keith wants to go to bed or eat, one of the two.
You're fine.
So when I was looking to apply for Riot Games, or they reached out to me, and then we had a conversation. I had to do something called an animation test, which is where they say, will you make us an animation? You can pick from one of these 4 characters and do the animation for the character. So because I'd already worked on a MOBA for a while, they sort of had a gauge of I'd be able to animate what they wanted, but they still wanted to see what I could do within a certain amount of time that they gave me. So they had me do a recall animation, and I had my pick of Jinx, Draven, Galio, and someone else. I forget who the 4th was. So I did a bunch of research, and I was like, who are these different characters? And it was like Draven. He's kind of like a smarmy, egotistical. And I'm like, well, he'll be fun. And so I started doing more research about Draven, and I discovered Tyler One.
Oh.
Like, this dude who only ever plays Draven. What in the heck? This is so funny. And then it was like he's banned and reformed, like whatever it was. It's ridiculous. So hilarious. And then I found, like, I got even deeper in the Tyler One wormhole, and I found a video that was like Tyler One's top 10 food drops. that somebody had made like a fan cam of Tyler just dropping
Oh my god.
food on his keyboard, and there's literally one of him being like, "Look at this spaghetti," and like just dropping spaghetti
I think
all
I've
over
seen
his
that.
keyboard. And I
Yeah.
was like, "What in the hell am I looking at? Like, who does that? That was ridiculous." It made me laugh so hard that I completely pivoted my idea for my animation from just doing a recall for Draven to doing. I pitched my animation as a skin for Draven called Chef Draven that was completely inspired by Tyler Williams' best food drops, where I gave him a little chef's hat, and like Draven, like a lot of his skins just do the point.
Yeah.
And then I also noticed that any of his other ones also throw his blades in the ground. And so I was like, okay, I don't know if those are like things that they have to do, but I'll try and like take note. So I had him throw his blades on the ground, throw a bunch of food up in the air, chop it up with his blade, land with it on his plate, and then he's ending in the point at the plate when it landed, and then it all fell off the plate.
That's awesome.
And yeah,
So that went over well, I assume?
Yeah, it went super well.
Awesome.
Yeah. I have the link somewhere.
Oh my god.
I don't know
if you can find it.
I got this. This is what else Twitter is good for. Yeah, easy. I made a GIF. Can I post links in this chat?
You should be able to.
There we go. So for folks listening, that is
I think it bumped you.
the video. It did.
Message it to one of us and we can post it.
Okay.
I take care of all that Twitch chat stuff anyway. Ugh.
Is this
Oh, the chat was really quiet today. The Overwatch guys are really just quiet.
the Overwatch guys?
We did Overwatch stream right before this. We have our weekly streams Wednesday, Thursday right now. Overwatch on Wednesday and Rocket League on Thursday, which and then we moderate chat and trade back and forth.
All right, give me 1 second here. Wait, did that work?
I think so. I can. Oh no!
it
It
did not.
app.
It links to Discord.
Links to Discord. We're gonna get this.
That's weird.
I have to TFA my Discord, my browser again. Oh, I just realized I set up TFA and forgot about it.
There we go.
I hate TFA so much.
I don't know what that.
Nice,
means.
I'm watching. That's pretty cool.
Thank you.
That's really cool. Yeah. So, do you have any last words of wisdom for anyone trying to get into the industry? And I mean, obviously, that's like one of the kids' biggest things is trying to get into the gaming world, and so.
Yeah, I think my greatest words of wisdom that I almost always say are, I mean, anybody who's already in the stream and watching tonight and also participating in your club, like that is my recommendation, is to get involved with the community in some way, whether that is playing games as part of the community, whether that is joining Twitter and following devs that you admire, whether that is joining a Discord that's all about it, like whatever it is, like when the world opens again, like going to a conference. Like I got, like one of my biggest opportunities was going to GDC as a volunteer, where I get a free ticket, which costs like $2,500 usually, something ridiculous. So free ticket, but you work a couple hours, which sounds like, oh, you're working a couple hours, but half of the people working with you are already in the industry. And as your part of your job is interfacing with the devs who are giving talks, like such a fantastic opportunity is finding these places to volunteer, and just letting yourself be immersed in the community that you want to be a part of. Focusing solely on work, you'll lose sight of like a lot of the fun and the camaraderie that comes with working in this industry. So getting involved, I think, is my number one hot tip for getting in the industry is making friends, baby.
Yeah. No, definitely. And we want to be able to help kids find those opportunities. So if you ever know of anyone, feel free to tag us and then we can pass a message along, especially anything in Illinois, which depending on the day, sometimes it's a hot spot for esports and gaming. And then other times it's just like a dry spell for a while. So I'm really hoping that Chicago will pick up. It's nice for us to get the Huntsman. I was really hoping that we were going to get an Overwatch team at some point, just to kind of bring something to the Midwest for all of us to root for. So
we have corn.
Now a bunch of good questions are rolling in.
Yeah,
I mean, for reference, just as a joke, like we have corn. I literally have a cornfield that way, and that way within 20 feet of me.
Amazing.
I live in what was formerly a cornfield.
But how many corn mazes?
None, unfortunately.
What? That's the best part about a cornfield, other than the corn, I guess.
It's all feed corn. You don't even eat this stuff.
Someone did ask, how exclusive is the internship program?
We get a lot of applicants. It's exclusive in the sense that, best of the best, but also best personality fits as well. So if you are in high school, I think the stipulations for the internship program are that you are going to school or recently graduated university. So if you're already thinking about the internship program, that's fantastic. Like, drive towards that. I've known some superstar high school animators, and maybe that's you. So I think as long as you're in school, apply for it, because we definitely hire interns after the fact when we can, when we have head count, as they say. But we do get a lot of applications. For my internship at Blizzard, they told me that 8,000 other people applied for my job. So
wow. Okay.
If that's any gauge for how exclusive you think
and how many people got in?
I was the only animator.
What the?
Yeah. Well, again, but she had already previously worked there, right? That was the
that was the internship.
No, that was the first one, the internship. Wow. Yeah. So I mean that definitely doesn't bode well. But you do have to be the best and show something. So I think that's important.
Yeah. I saw a question from Papa Shorty. Lana, how do you deal with getting nervous in an interview? That's a great question.
Do a lot of them.
Do a lot of them. Absolutely. Like practicing with your friends. Like, I still get nervous in interviews. I got nervous for this just because I'm like, oh, it's exciting. Like, it's not necessarily nervous like, oh, I'm going to mess this up. It's nervous like, it's exciting to talk to new people. And it's like the mystery of like, what are the questions going to be? But you can prepare for speaking to people in the same way that you prepare for any kind of test kind of thing that you might do. But the one thing that I think helps keep me calm in interview situations is remembering that an interview is just as much for you to figure out if you want to work there as it is for them to figure out if they want you to work there. So you could go to an interview and knowing, like, if they're interviewing you, like it's not a favor they're doing you to give you a job. They need somebody to work with them. And so knowing that, like, you have a skill set that they're already interested in, like, if they wouldn't bring you in for an interview if they didn't already think you could do the job, basically. And from there, have questions prepared. Like, don't let it just be about you sitting there like, do you need anything else from me? It's like, well, walk me through the typical day. What are the things that you guys are struggling with right now? Like, what are the ways that you hope that I will sink into this role? Like, ask as many questions as you need to feel comfortable about accepting that kind of job as they will want to ask you to know who you are.
And for reference, like, any job out of college, you're going to do more than one interview unless you know some guy.
Even if you know some guy. Like, I knew one of the art directors at Riot, which is why I got reached out to in the first place. And from there, it was 6 months and 6 interviews before I got the job.
And Todd and I went through the teaching interview process, which is a holy hot mess. I did 7 interviews at 7 different schools, heard back from one of them, and that was this one. So, and a couple of the interviews were some of the worst interviews of my life. I messed up so bad, and I had to learn from that and deal with it. One of them was a Skype interview where my camera was facing the ceiling, so I could see the ceiling and they could see me, and I'm like, oh, this is great. I get to read the room of all of the ceiling.
Like, even though I got my job at Blizzard, what like in retrospect feels comparatively fast. Like, I applied for, I don't know the actual math. I applied for 3 jobs every day for 2 months.
Wow.
and I didn't hear from any of them. I heard from two. One was the other MOBA with EA's MOBA that got canceled. I forget. Way back.
No.
I don't remember the name. What?
Battleborn?
No, I don't remember the name of it. But I had an interview with them, and then I was chatting with some people. That it was a project that turned out to be Ori and the Blind Forest. So what a bummer that didn't work out. That's why I think about my life, what it would have been. But Dawngate. Thank you, Robot Pigs. It is Dawngate. I don't know why I was thinking way something. Dawngate. That's the one. But yeah, I didn't hear from anyone. How many jobs? Like, somebody can math that out for me. I do art, not math specifically.
It's a lot of jobs.
It's a lot of jobs.
The answer is a lot.
Yeah. So.
Dawngate. This looks a lot like League. Holy hell.
Yeah, I know it's tough, especially being a teacher. I interviewed for quite a few history teaching positions, but never really got callbacks for anyone. And many positions I applied for never heard back from. As soon as I transitioned to going into computer science, I had interviews at almost every prestigious school in the city because they were so short for computer science teachers on top of my background in esports. They were, I was just recruited last year. Somebody wanted to talk with me in the summer about jumping over to their school, and it's a possibility to switch schools really easy in Chicago. There's not much paperwork or anything involved, but it was like the school I'm at right now is like 7 minutes from my house in traffic, and that school would have been at least 45. And it's not much better than the school I'm at right now. So I'm like, I think I'm okay for now, but I'll keep that in mind. But it's also just making yourself more marketable. Yeah, maybe you're just applying for the wrong positions, or maybe you do need to get some more experience in something else to kind of bridge that gap to maybe, have a company think more highly of you in a different aspect. Or like we're talking about those small teams. If you can do more than one job at a business, then that makes you more marketable and a lot easier to get a job. And then you can use that as leverage to get to your next job. You might not make it at Blizzard at your first try, like Lana did here.
Yeah. And sometimes there's just like a huge degree of luck. Like even getting my internship at Blizzard at the end of the summer, my boss straight up told me that they got me the job because it was down between me and this other person who had a ton of experience already. And they were going to pick that guy. And then my boss made a bad joke to him and he didn't laugh, and he was so embarrassed by it that they hired me instead.
Wow.
So like
hiring through embarrassment. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a hit on me. I still made it to the top 2. Even if I didn't get that job, I still made it to the top 2 people out of 8,000 or whatever it was. So it feels like such a hit. Like if it wouldn't have worked out, that would have been such a bummer. But like there's such a huge amount of luck involved because there's so many factors happening. Even if you get to that interview phase and they didn't give it to you, you have no idea the reason. Even if you apply and you don't get it, like applying again a year later with an updated portfolio with whatever that is, people like the developers, the recruiters, we can see you grow. We can see how you've pivoted from previously. Like that is a good thing to apply again. It's not like the company's getting tired of hearing from you unless you're applying once a week with the same stuff,
Right. Again, goes back to that growth mindset we were talking about, like learn from your failures and do something about it.
Yep, for sure. Anyway, I should probably eat as well. I've actually had dinner sitting here.
Oh, we're sorry.
I didn't want to be like,
You're West Coast, so you're still around dinner time. Where for me, it's hitting on 9:30 now. So
yeah. Oh my gosh.
Well,
thank you so much for reaching out to me and inviting me here. What a delightful conversation. So wonderful to meet both of you.
Yeah, if there are any more rioters who want to be here, that'd be fantastic.
Huh?
If there are any more rioters who want to be here, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
People surprisingly hate talking to people at Riot. At Blizzard, God. I feel like me and all my friends were like, when do we get to talk to people again? And I feel like at least a lot of the developers I work with, they're like, I just want to make art, man. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thank you for being. I know this was a long time coming, and I had messaged you so long ago, and it took a while, but I'm so happy that you did say yes, and we're able to have you on here. It was definitely a fun time. There's definitely an hour flew by entirely too quick.
Word.
So
let me know how things go. We could do it again in the future.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
get the
For
fresh crowd through, and then we'll come back again.
Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds great. Well, everyone, thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks again, Keith, for being here as my co-chair. Thanks again for Lana being here. You can follow her on Twitter. It's I can't say it. Latien. No.
Oh yeah, Latina.
Latina.
I'll
Yeah.
type it.
Just type in.
There you go.
Yeah. You're welcome. Sorry, my keyboard is so loud.
Oh, it's not that loud. Trust me.
I mean, he got used to mine until I recently swapped.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Awesome.
So thanks again for everyone for being here with us. Next week, who is next week? Keith, do you have that?
It's Kirk.
It's Kurt. Yeah, Kurt from ISU.
Yes, sir.
So if you guys are interested, they just built a brand new lab. They're in the top 5 in the coaches poll for League of Legends teams, I believe. Is it top 5 or top 10?
It took them a while to get into the coaches poll because they're a new school.
Yeah.
But I think they're top 10. I know they're 10. I mean, I know Drew is just demolishing pretty much any amateur mid laner out there.
Yeah, I was just gonna say he's we have one of our former IHSA members is the starting mid laner, and he did he finish Challenger? I think he did.
I know he got Challenger. I don't know if he finished Challenger.
I think he finished. I think he was trying to aim for 1,000 LP, but I think he ended up stopping, so he didn't end up not being.
But he's been given a mid laner the business in college recently. So
Yeah.
It's been good to see that. He played set mid in a tournament a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, no, he's definitely. I've known him since he was a freshman in high school, and he was a cat one trick. And I had told him, "Look, man, you're good. You need to play something else besides cat because you will not make it playing cat only." He still plays a mean cat, but he definitely has grown since freshman year. So I'm really excited for that. He'll probably be in chat too, I assume. Since we'll have his coach on. But definitely, we have really good guests coming up, guys. Definitely spread the word if you guys enjoyed this one. If there's anyone you want to see on here, let us know. Add them on Twitter. Tell us to add them on Twitter. The more we bother them, the more they'll actually reach out to us. So we definitely want to get your feedback. If you're looking for anyone to be on here, let us know, and we'll try to bring him on.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Keith, did you have something else, or are you good?
That's it.
I tried to reach out to Dante, Robot Pigs. He has not responded. I've also jumped in his streams and tried to bother him, and he hasn't responded. So I've DM'd him on Twitter. I've emailed him. Feel free to email him as well. Let him know about the IHSEA. Maybe he'll respond to someone else's message or a few of them after he sees the name. So definitely, I have tried because he's also, I believe, from Illinois. So I'm trying to get many people. Yeah, definitely. That'd be awesome. Spread the word. But with that being said, thanks everyone. Have a great night. We will see you next week around 8:15.